I think all of the different journeys on ways to make something of yourself has been gatekept before the internet. I just truly think that before the internet, we were not able to fully see the arc in a person's story the way that we can see them now. And one thing that I can tell for certain is that the common denominator in all of the people that we look up to and admire because of what they do in their life is that these people took creative risks. I think in the past and growing up, especially someone that was like born in the 90s, when you're in school, there's only a select few things that people tell you that you can do with your life. You're either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, someone that works in mass communication or marketing. And then there's people that want to be like Michael Jordan and Lil Wayne and stuff. And it's like, okay, you do that, but there's no real path. There's no one that is there to say if you do these things, XYZ, that it is guaranteed that you will make it in that life. And it puts a fear in a lot of creatives' hearts because there's really no one out there able to kind of tell you or reassure you that the journey that you're on is for sure going to amount to something. It just doesn't. I love when people have mentorship and the support system, and those can take you a really long way. But for the people that don't, they just have these dreams, they just have these desires, and no real reassurance that these things are ever going to happen. We have to be able to connect with something much larger than ourselves, and we have to be able to trust in that larger thing enough to take the risk to see that our desires are not just what we want, but they're a divine source in our life. They're a divine presence in our life. And it's either we go through the trials and the tribulations, listening to the small still voice that no one can hear but us to make it to our destination, or we kind of sit on the edge of listening to other people around us and kind of doing what everyone else is doing and falling in line. And we are maybe left with comfortable lives, but are they the ones that we dream about? Maybe not. And the longer that we spend away from those things, the harder it is for us to maybe make a turn or maybe see a possibility of us actually getting to that place. I think to be a creator, to decide that the life that you have, the experience that you have had is not your full story, and that you actually have the ability to change the script is your power that not a lot of people are able to conceptualize enough or take seriously enough to make that change. And I think the reason why is because it will not come without taking a creative risk. And I want to make a video talking about that process, what it means, like what it feels like to jump over the edge. It's like we jump over the edge and wait for the net to appear over and over again, assuming that it gets easier the more you do it, but it doesn't. We just kind of have to build a relationship with our faith in this small, still voice in our head enough to continue to wait for the net, even when it hasn't fully arrived yet. It's the waiting process on the free fall that kind of gets us in like a tizzy, because we want to cling to the walls after a certain point where we feel like the net is not there. And for myself, I feel like I did the leap. I did the jump. I started expressing myself, but now it just feels like I am floating in midair and I'm getting closer to the ground, it feels like, or it's just I don't know where I'm going. I'm kind of in the dark. Or, this might sound silly, but if you remember the movie Spy Kids 1, I know I'm aging myself, but there was a scene where the brother and sister, they fall into like this pit, right? They have to free fall into this pit, and it feels like they've been falling for hours, but really it's like this simulation, or it's like this trap where they are on top of like this blowing air, and it makes it look like they've been falling for hours, but really they've been floating in the air. I know it sounds weird, but that's what it feels like, girl. It feels absolutely crazy, but there's something in me that's telling me that it's all worth it. And I think I'm making this video to remind you, as long as you have breath in your lungs, you have an opportunity at redemption. Sometimes we take these leaps and we assume that this is the leap that will break us. Or maybe we've fallen so high that this is the one that we won't be able to recover from. And nothing in this world is so much that you cannot redeem yourself from. So with that being said, take more risks, creative risks, and see where this force of creativity, this source of life and energy takes you, because nothing changes unless we change. And I feel like the biggest change that you could do is maybe not necessarily going to the best seminar or the greatest thing in the world, but just getting out of your own way so that source of energy, that source of creativity can creep through and allow it to express itself through your own being. I know there's a lot of us, especially in the creative space, we have these thoughts of things that we could do, and maybe we're in our car or we're in our shower or we're in the middle of a conversation with someone and we have this creative idea. And we're like, oh, you know what? That'll be really cute. Like, that'll be really good. Like, I should totally do that. And then you never do it. You never write it down. And those are the things that we should latch on to. Those are the things that we need to, discover a little bit more, because it could be the very thing that takes us to our next level. I think all the time, right before I go to sleep, I have this phrase, this idea that comes into my head, and I'm like, damn, that sounds good. But then I don't even write it down. I don't put it in my notes. I go to sleep, and then I wake up forgetting about it all until maybe a few hours in the day. I'm like, what was that thing that I heard before I went to sleep? Because that was maybe either a really good idea or really good concept to write about. And I'm tired of missing those opportunities. I'm tired of just letting my creativity go by. I'm not getting any younger. And this is the time where I go full out as far as what I want my life to be. 30 is the year where you just really start taking everything seriously. And when you're creative, the world is not going to take your creativity seriously. It just is not. As much as we love artists, and artists are probably the most powerful people in the world, the people that create are the most powerful beings in the world. Think about it. We're not really given that respect before everyone respects us. We're not really given those opportunities and nurturing moments of belief before the entire world catches on. So I just want to be that person in your life that sees you before someone else does, enough to pour into you and give you something that you can take with you on your journey. And so let's get started. Forget all the intro stuff. I'm just gonna keep talking. Lately, I've been feeling the urge to take creative risks. It's suddenly I woke up and felt okay, maybe it's becoming a challenge for me to do the repetition and the consistently that I had before, because it's time to change it up. I have changed, and in return, my creativity has to change in a way as well. And if I've developed in my creativity, I should be able to express myself in the trajectory of my growth and what that means for me. And because that requires a little bit more work, a little bit more editing, a little bit more time, it scares me, because I feel like if it was already hard for me to get to do the hard part, which is editing, posting, creating all the time, adding more layers to that makes it even more intimidating. And it doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen. It's just I have to get out of my own way just to do the hard part anyway. And that's the hardest part about wanting to live a creative life. It doesn't mean you have this free for all. That's what I thought being a creative was. I look at people and I admire so many YouTubers, of course, but creatives that are just paid to be themselves and talk, and they freestyle, and they just are unapologetic about it. I look up to them so much because I'm like, wow, you are free in a way that I have not discovered yet, because I tried to stay in my own way. Or I'm so comfortable being in my own way. I feel like I have to be this perfect version of myself in order to be accepted. And when I see people existing in a freedom, I'm like, wow, it's not hard. I made it harder on myself because I lack trust. I lack the ability or appreciation of my own personality enough to say, like, okay, this is who I am. I don't care if people like it or not. I'm still stuck being disappointed by people not liking me. As much as I've done the work to try to move past it, there's still something in me that feels like they have to curate a persona or an image of being this seamless person. Maybe it's because I'm a Virgo. I don't know. But I feel like I have to always be done in order to be accepted. And it's only pushing me further and further away. That's my edge that I have to jump away from. Going unscripted, being raw and honest, and being okay with what comes out of that, because that is the true version of me. And if I'm creating something that is myself, why am I creating out of fear? Like, come on, girl. Like, it's really not rocket science. But because maybe when we've grown up or in different settings of our early development, we were always taught that who we were was wrong. Saying certain things is a mistake. You're going to offend somebody by doing X, Y, Z. And it's like, dang, like, okay, we're adults. We're existing in the real world. There's no consequence, for being yourself. And yeah, I saw this Instagram post of a person that said, if my freedom upsets you, you should probably figure out what part of you is screaming to be more free. And I wish that when I was younger and people told me to, like, okay, chill out. Okay, you think you're all that. Okay, I just don't like you. I wish that my free self when I was younger had the ability to, like, create something as, like, T as that. Like, you hate me because I'm free in ways you're not. Like me, 7 years old, I'm free. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm happy that I experience that now, but I want that to carry with you. I want you to take that. If my freedom upsets you, you should probably figure out what part of you is screaming to be more free. Isn't that such a read? Like, it just calls so much. It brought so much life into me. And as I'm hearing this in the back of my head, and as I write the script after script, trying to connect with others, I ask myself, is it good? But on top of that, is this my freedom? What part of myself am I trying to hide by diluting my own creative process, my own creative expression? And I think that's what inspired this video. Suddenly I had something to say because I was able to be honest enough to say it. And then I came across the Dochi's Artist Way series on YouTube, and I just fell in love with her again, because of who she is as a person and her ability to fight for her creative career and her lifestyle. That's something that I admire, but it was just the way that she was able to express herself and show up in the raw version of herself. When she dedicated herself to the Artist Way Challenge, she didn't care about how she looked or how she showed up. If she farted on a screen, it didn't matter. And it was so refreshing, and it felt like I was talking to, like, a sister or someone that I loved so much, because it was like I resonated so much with her passion. And growing up and being a passionate young girl, I was always told that, like, okay, I needed to calm down. Okay, the way that you're feeling, the way that you're expressing yourself, it's too loud, it's too much. Like, just tone it down a little bit. And I tried to create this coolness about me, but naturally, I've never been a cool girl. I've never been cool. I've never been that girl. I've always talked a lot and about the things that I'm passionate about. And that's how I, like, exist, being a nerd about things. And I feel like in order to be this creative person, I have to be a nerd about creativity and expressing myself. And instead of trying to choke that down inside of me like I've done in the past, maybe if I expressed it more freely and gave it the forefront, who knows where I would be. Like, girl, I don't know if you notice, but, like, the nerds, the people that are, like, geeks about these little niche topics and the ways that they live, like, those are the coolest people in the world. And I hate the version of myself that ever believed that I needed to get out of that to be accepted. And so after watching every episode in Dochi's The Artist Way series, I got my ass up and I went to Barnes & Noble. And then the Barnes & Noble that I went to didn't have it, so I went 15 miles in the opposite direction, used the toll road, and I do not have an easy tag, and I got it in another Barnes & Noble. And then I even got a little journal specifically for this experience, and I was so excited about it. And it's just a passion in a way that I haven't felt in a very long time. So I'm like so happy that she created the series. I know this book has been going on for years, but it's something about someone like her being able to express herself creatively and all of the positive things that it's done and all of the friction that she experienced and just her raw experience with it. It just really lit up a fire in me. And so yeah, I left eager to get started in a way that I haven't felt in a very long time. It is no surprise that lately I have been in a creative block, which is why trying to develop a consistent schedule to post has been so hard. I don't know how to express it other than it just being hard. Not because there's anything in my way, it's just because I'm in my way, and I am the hardest person to move past when it comes to like doing something. I assume that I don't have the time to do these things, but then I distract myself by all of the miscellaneous things that I can do in my day, like cleaning, laundry, or like my job. Like there's always going to be a task to do, and because of that there's always going to be something in front of creating. And I think so often I've been hiding behind that. And isn't it so sad that because we have this fear of survival, and we have all of these other things that make our lives what it is, we try so hard to keep it and grasp onto it. We eventually end up prioritizing those things more than our own creative truth or our expansion and the hard tasks that could potentially give a positive outcome to our creativity. It's like, well, I need to do this, and if I don't do this, no one will. And it's like, okay, look, if I left those dishes in the sink and just let them be and decided to work on what is fun and creative for me, the world isn't going to explode. Eventually I will get to the dishes. Eventually I will get to sweeping and mopping, but putting all of those little miscellaneous tasks in front of the big deal that I feel like this channel is for me, or using my voice is for me, it's not going to make it any easier when I come back to doing the things that I need to do. I truly feel like the Artist Way, the 12-week creative intensive, will be the breakthrough that I've been needing and I've been looking for. It's when you have a channel and you're constantly writing and editing and researching, putting all of this pressure on yourself to post, it changes you. And for a while, I've been trying to put into words for people to understand, but it's something that you can't necessarily feel until you're knee deep in it. And you feel the pressure and anxiety of not posting. And then when it's time for you to post, you feel like you can't do it unless the circumstances are completely perfect. And that's what's been standing in my way. Hopefully in this Artist Way journey, I'm able to get to the root of what that is. But when you're on your 200th post, and you're tired of looking at yourself, tired of going through the hours of editing, wondering when things are going to kick over, it's like you start to realize maybe the reasons why you've done it before are not powerful enough to get you to continue on. So something has to change. Your intentions have to change. It has to be much deeper. And I think that's a part of the creative process. There's waves. Sometimes you're up, you feel all the passion, you're keeping it going, and you're on a high. The next, you feel like you're going downhill and you're in a pit, and you just kind of need something to bring you back up again. And hopefully with this creative intensive, the Artist Way, I will get back on the up track of the passion and with more clarity about where I'm going. I had to think back on why I started doing the podcast YouTube thing in the first place, and I realized that that intention changed for me when I changed. You are changed by this process of continuing on, and because of that, you owe it to your creativity to allow your creativity to grow in the pace that you are. And that was an issue for me. It was like I was growing visually, creatively. There were things that I noticed that inspired me to do things better, but I couldn't necessarily put my finger on it. It was too hard for me to go through the process of learning how to do it. And instead of moving forward in the natural progression of my growth, I just chose to stunt myself, which pushed me more into the shadow. And yeah, it just doesn't have to be that way. It's like a couple of weeks ago, I looked back and realized how far I came. So far now that absolutely nothing behind me is familiar, comfortable, or something I could cling to. So the only place to go is over this metaphorical edge in my creativity. And also, as I started to think about it more, metaphorically, if you or someone that you know is afraid of heights, you will always exist in the same fear if you live on the cliff, right on the edge. If you want the fear to subside, you have to go beyond it to see this fear from a new perspective, to maybe get rid of it and find different ways around it. If you stay behind the ledge, the same fear exists. You never get to the edge. You never get beyond it. You exist in the same ways that you are. If you're living right on the edge, the same fear is always going to stay with you. It's just in an intensified state. You're always fearing the possibility of falling, or what happens if, and you're frozen on this space. But when you leap, there's an opportunity for so much more discovery in you, and that's why we do it. That's why we leap, not because it isn't scary, but because we can already predict, and we already have an experience of who we've been and the outcome of our lives existing in that state of fear for so long. And I think some of us are just so tired of it, understanding finally that we have a power to change that, and we jump for the plot, and we're just honestly ready to be surprised by our being and its abilities now on the other side of this block that we've been living so long with. I used to think, to be a podcaster, especially in a space of like consciousness and self-help and development and wanting to be taken seriously, I thought that I needed to present myself in a specific way, and I needed to say these things a specific way. If I wanted to appeal to a larger audience, I kept these safe topics at the forefront of my mind. And I think if my desire is to go deeper, right, I have to leave behind the idea of this perfect black girl that is easy for the world to digest. That's not the real me. That's not Jasmine. Jasmine is so raw that I'm hated by a lot of people in real life. It was that truth that put fear in me. As much as people claim that they wanted honesty, not everyone is open to it as much as, they wish to be. And because I was always the one to say the quiet part out loud, what I thought was doing a service to others was actually offending them. So in hopes not to risk, offending the people that I cared about so much and the people that I wanted to reach, I just chose to skate along the edge, always having the fear, never testing it, but staying safe. And also my creativity is safe to a certain degree. There's nothing that's provocative about the things that I say sometimes, not to say that I ever want to go that route, but maybe if I'm more honest with myself and I choose to step over that ledge, unscripted, who knows how many people I would be able to attract with just this honesty that I'm too afraid to touch. So, yeah. I think I'm like 90, just a clear 90, maybe 90.7% ready to go over the edge, because I've just been doing this for so long. I don't know if this is my last stop, but I wrote in my little journal that I care about so much. This is the journal that I'm using for all of my morning pages. This is the journal that I'm reflecting on the things that I'm reading. I'm writing them down in this book, and I'm doing all of my assignments here. So before I actually started the book, I wrote this mini prayer to myself, and I want to read it with you all. just so you can see like kind of where my mind was. I said, I'm starting the artist way. I decided to invest in an intensive artist development journey because through the act of repetition, I've lost direction, creativity, will, and clarity. This creative block is an important trial in the process of my creative development and career progression. I don't fear walking in it more than I fear never having come to the conclusion that I am in need of help and services. If my desire is to speak and make people feel more compelled to express themselves, how can I do that if I stop expressing myself in an honest, raw, and authentic way? There are other concerns I have for myself, and they are losing commitment to the task and in turn further abandoning the commitment that I want to make to myself, arriving to such a truth that this process will bring that I sabotage my livelihood in an attempt to get closer to my desires faster. It's like once I make up something in my mind that I want it, I just cut everything off and I just go through that. And sometimes it's not the safest route. Like, I get it, you know? Don't do that. Discovering my desires in a more profound way and still not achieving it over time. The disappointment in myself will send me on a spiral of shame that might make me an insufferable woman to be around because of my envy and jealousy. I pray that the process grants me more passion and willpower through the clarity discovered. I hope to become a creatively refreshing woman with grace, warmth, and positivity. I dedicate the next 3 months of my life as an immersed artist. I give silence to situations that I have outgrown, all to preserve myself for the process and for God. And with an open heart, I surrender to the unknown to be carried by the divine insight, wisdom, and glory. Amen. I'm going to read that every time I open my journal, so my intentions are clear. And even when I hear it, it just seems vague, but I think it's just, this was a surrender to an openness. I laid down my fears. I was full aware of my shortcomings and I wrote those down, things that I know I'm subject to doing and how many times I've let myself down in the past. But it's like not putting the pressure on myself to be this perfect person in this journey, but giving myself like a clean slate as far as like what I'm willing to reach or get to within myself to get over this creative block. And yeah, this was a mouthful, I know, but I love you guys. And I feel like me going on this journey creatively will be amazing. Like, I feel really positive about this. So yeah, I am starting the artist way, and every week I will be discussing the weeks that I'm experiencing, and there's going to be morning pages every single day, hopefully. There's going to be a artist date every week, and I'm actually off today, so I will be going to do a little artist date, and I'm just overall really, really excited. I feel like this is the start of something amazing. And yeah, if you feel compelled, or if you have actually started this and you've done it already, leave me some information below of like what helped you or different artist dates that you've taken yourself, because I think I'm gonna like buy some paint, come home, get some wine, and like do like a little artsy like fun thing to myself. But I want to go to museums. I want to go and do other things, but I'm like interested to know what artist dates you've been on and what were good tips for you throughout the journey. If you haven't started yet, but you're interested in like finding a breakthrough in your creativity of, you know, you've done the work, you know how to do the work, right? You journal, you do all the things, but there's just something else. There's just a different layer that could be reached in you, and you're ready to experience that. Start it, and let's go on this ride together. I think that is all that I have for today. I love you guys so much. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at jasmine.siri, and you can listen to this audio on Spotify and Apple at the Ron Half Podcast. I will see you guys in my next one.